Welcome back to my channel. Today we are making this beautiful winter wonderland cake. To make it, I'm frosting my layers with my classic American buttercream, and I've made cake layers that are going to match the colors that we're using in our scenery. Our base cake layer here is a light gray, which I added a tiny bit of black cocoa to achieve that color, and the other cake layers are fading shades of blue that I used some gel food coloring with. So now that these cake layers are stacked, I'm adding a thin layer of frosting all the way around the cake just to lock in all the moisture and all those crumbs, so that way when we go to add our second cake layer, it'll be nice and perfect. I'm using my large offset spatula to cover the cake with frosting, and then I'm smoothing it out with my tall bench scraper. Once I felt like the cake was pretty smooth, I popped it into the freezer for about 10 minutes until the frosting was firm to the touch. I'm now adding some fading colors of blue frosting to this cake. I started with white around the bottom because that's going to be our foreground of our landscape and it's going to be the snow. And then I'm adding deepening shades of blue up the side to look almost kind of like a wintry sunset. I'm not going to lie, it took a lot of bowls and made a lot of dishes to color the frosting this many different shades of blue, but I think it's totally worth it. Once we blend it together, you're going to see what a beautiful ombre effect it creates. So once the cake was covered, I smoothed it using my large offset spatula, and then I used my small offset spatula to, for lack of a better word, squiggle the frosting colors together. I wanted to do this because I really did want them to fade together, and I didn't want them just to look like stripes when we smoothed them. So I used my bench scraper here, and I actually ran it under some warm water just to help get the frosting super smooth and really blend those colors together. And after quite a few passes around the cake, it was nice and smooth. For that top edge of cakes, I love to use my small offset spatula just because I feel like it gives me a lot more control when I'm trying to get a nice sharp corner. To make sure that my mountains were evenly spaced, I actually used this Christmas tree cookie cutter, and I went around the cake and just gently pressed it into the frosting to create an outline for me to follow. This also helps make sure your mountains are the same height, which just gives it more of a consistent look. So I'm using a tapered offset spatula here and some gray buttercream, and I'm just carefully scraping it into that outline. I chilled the cake and then added some white frosting on top of the mountains just to make them look a little bit snowy. And then I added some more white frosting to the base of the cake to really give it the look of some snowy banks. Once that was smooth, I started adding our trees and our bushes. I know it might sound a bit crazy, but I'm not actually using piping tips here. I just cut small holes in my piping bags and it's working great. So don't worry if you don't have a bunch of frosting tips on hand. As long as you have some good piping bags, you'll be good to go. So once our trees were in place, just right above our snowbanks and below our trees, I added a little bit of white frosting on top of them, again to look just like snow. To add a tiny bit more texture, I used this little mini fork that I have, which helped me reshape some of my trees and fluff up the snow that was on them. And just like that, our winter wonderland cake is complete. So now it's time to take my matching blue knife and cut into this cake. I really love the contrast between those bright cake layers and our beautiful scenery on the outside. Thank you guys so much for watching this tutorial. If you want the recipe for this cake, it is up on Chelsweets.com, so you can head over there and check it out.